Good morning. I'm running a little bit late because I didn't realise what the time was. So how is everyone this morning? It's Pause with Elizabeth Elenor, and today is Monday morning and I just had a really beautiful weekend. I went to a conference and then Saturday and Sunday had time out and paused. Went to the rainforest and spent some time with friend, and had lunch, and it was lovely, and really took my time. So I would like to ask you, what does it mean to be a woman to you? Let's take a moment to reflect on what that is. What is it actually to be a woman in today's society? In any society, in any time frame. Because being a human and being an individual, you know, we come into this world as from creative spirit, in my opinion, where we're in this field of all information and we can choose to experience ourselves, you know, like as the all in a way, but an individual at the same time. This is my understanding of it. And then we decide to choose to experience ourselves, and so we come down into a physical body and we create ourselves as an individual, and we identify with that. So when you identify as being a woman, what does that mean to you? Because being a woman in different time frames of our historical evolution as we've moved along means different things, right? Have had different opportunities and different resistances and different things that have held us back. And I also feel that at different times we have been unaware of what it means to be a woman, because we have been held back and diminished in our ability to create, our ability to understand who we are, our ability as spirit. And I say this is, you know, being a woman, and I feel that men have had the same experiences as well, right? They have had limitations put on them. They've had resistances and not being able to really evolve and experience themselves as men and strong warriors as well, right? So what does it mean to be a woman? When you really tune in to who you are, how does that feel? And what's that experience like outside of our conditioning and patterns and definitions and baggage and brokenness and trauma and you know, repression and oppression and all of those things? What is it like? What does it mean to be a woman for you without all of those things? And do you actually even know? Because to me, being a woman is very sacred. It's the ability to move into spirit. It's the ability to move into flow. It's the ability to connect to our higher wisdom. It's the ability to understand magic. And even when I say that, the very language of magic and the definition of magic has been altered in our existence and our evolutionary process of discovering humanity and who humans are and men and women, all that sort of stuff. Some of these actual words have got connotations around them as well, right, that conjure up, the word magic, for example. All of a sudden you think of potentially, depending on, where you've been brought up, or how you've been brought up. But magic can also have language around it, that there's something, cauldrons and fear around it, and restrictions, and that it's not good for you. There's a taboo around magic, right? Even Disney with Mickey Mouse, and he's conjuring up stuff, and he can't look after it. If anyone's seen Fantasia, and he's got these things coming out and he can't control the magic, right? So some of these words have even got language around them, or structures around them, that we've got to unpack and discover for ourselves what they actually mean to us. So to be a woman, in my opinion, we have the ability to create, right? We actually create within our very womb. We've got the opportunity to create within our very womb. If we haven't had that experience ourselves, we still have the ability or the opportunity to, even if it's not functioning the way we want, it's there potentially, right? Even on an energetic level. So we're creators. We have the opportunity to make life. Like, how powerful is that? How powerful is it that we have the opportunity to make life? So we have the opportunity to create and be artistic and to express ourselves. We have a really deep understanding when we can pull all that stuff out, right? When we can let go of all of that stuff and get rid of the layers over the top, we can really deeply connect to the earth. We can appreciate nature, and connect in with nature. I just went on the weekend yesterday, went with a friend to, totally blessed, right? Just lived in Far North Queensland, where there was rainforest, and lived in the rainforest at the very end of that process, and moved to Sydney and found it extremely challenging to be in the suburbs and cement and all that sort of stuff, and did that for about 6 years, looking after family, and then have the opportunity to still stay present to the family, still want to be supporting the family, but I have the opportunity to move so that I can have my life back in a way, right? And discover that I can move down south, and here's the rainforest again. I had no idea that I had the opportunity to live at the beach and live near the rainforest. And if anyone's seen my, if you are friends with me on Facebook, you'll see my story, and there were some massive vines that I took photos of, beautiful fungus, waterfalls, and had to go in through this. There was a pathway, of course. It was very wet and muddy, as everything is at the moment. Really thinking of all the people in the Brisbane area at the moment with all the floods, and just walking into that environment, I was able to drop in and hear the sounds, hear the birds, feel the energy in that sacred space. You know, when you're in that space, you can let go of the chaos that's happening in the world, and the traumas that are being orchestrated by mass media and the governments of the world, and all the craziness that's happening. When you can drop into nature and allow yourself to be filled up with that energy, that is life. You know, that is what I choose for myself. And when we can, as women, step into that and feel that and allow that energy to meld with ours. I didn't say that correctly, but like with osmosis almost, you know, we have this ability to live in that environment and to totally, you know, talk to the trees and talk to nature, and the little tiny ferns and the beautiful you know, spiders that are creating webs that are amazing, you know, that you can't even see. I just took an amazing photo of a spider web that we couldn't see, but as it came, like, you could only see the spider on it, but the camera actually got the water on it, and it just lit up. It was amazing. So as women, it's actually really important for us to drop into that energy and to experience ourselves with our feet on the ground, not in shoes, not on cement, to take our shoes off and feel our feet on the earth. Even you can do that if you are in a city, and find some grass somewhere and just plant your feet on the ground, right? And pause for a moment, because this is who we are. In that process, you can discover, if you give yourself that moment, you can discover that beautiful soft flow and rhythm of who we are, and you can feel it coming up through the earth, and you can just gently rock. Has anyone had the experience of being in a line at a shopping centre, and there's someone with a baby, and next thing you know, you're rocking, like you're in that space where you're just rocking with the mum and the baby, right? That's who we are. We have this ability to connect in with that essence that is the earth, that is the pulse of the earth, that is who we are. And when we can connect in with that, it is extremely powerful, because it's our connection to our intuition, is our connection to our inner guidance, it's our connection to our inner cycles and rhythm. And when we can stay in that space, you know, we wouldn't stay in that space all the time, because we flit in and out of that space, right? When we're in that space all the time, we can not be able to sometimes, you know, not function in the world, because that space has a very sacred energy to it, and our busy, bustling lives can, you know, distract us from getting in that space or being in that space. But when you can connect in with that space on a regular basis, then you can drop into that space instantly. So when you're in a rush, or someone says something to you that you don't like, or you experience something on the TV and see that you don't like it, or you know, someone triggers you, one of your children or a partner or a friend or someone down at the shopping centre, or while you're driving your car, whatever it might be, like the world, you know, takes you out of that space. When you're used to being back in and dropping in, you can go back into it instantly, because that's who we authentically are. We can be in that space. Now this is empowerment. When us as women can drop into that, space. That's really tuning into our bodies. I would love to know if you know that space, if you've felt that space before, if you've welcomed that space, if you have danced in that space, if you have owned that space and that space has owned you. Have you been part of that space and allowed yourself to be at one with that? Because being a woman is all about, and being a woman of light is all about that space. Us women are extremely powerful. We have the ability to make huge changes in the world from that space. From that space, we have the ability to make huge changes in the world, because that space is actually quite soft. That space is quite expansive. That space is really strong and extremely powerful, and not to be stuffed with. I was going to use the F word, but I won't. That space is who we truly are. And we as women, you know, I'm not sure, I haven't gone through a lot of history with women, and I do know that there is, history that says, that the world was a matriarchal society to start with, then it went into the patriarchal society. The goddesses ruled, and then then the gods, and now it's bringing that combination of the two, bringing that back into balance, right? That space holds the masculine and the feminine within us, holding us in structure and form and action, as well as softness and gentleness and intuition and space and formlessness and flow. And that is being a woman. That is our authentic birthright. And when we can hold that space for our children, for our men, so that our men can be warriors, our men can be strong and powerful without force and aggression. Men can have that action within them and hold that warrior energy. It's a really strong woman that can hold space for a man and be led by a man, in my opinion. And being led by a strong, balanced man is where I'm coming from. And so, that space that we hold has vulnerability to it. I remember I had an experience once at a festival, and I'd walked away. I'd been having an amazing conversation with a beautiful, very balanced man, and we had this very enlightening conversation. And as I walked away, I saw the vision of a cell inside in my vision, and the cell started vibrating really, really fast, and all of a sudden it split into two. Now, I won't go into the end of the story because it was a pretty intense experience for me, but what I reflected on after that was when a cell, so as above, so below, right? As a cell splits into two, which is creation, the vulnerability of that experience is intense. Total vulnerability to break into two or to create something new. So there was a death, really, in a way. There's a death and dying moving into creation. When there's one form of creation, there's always the loss of the previous experience, right? And so that vulnerability, we hold that within us if we allow it. And I know that through our history and through our own journeys, I don't think I know one woman that hasn't had that vulnerability totally trampled on, totally abused, totally ripped apart. And so therefore, and not totally, but I'm just emphasizing, therefore when that vulnerability comes up, there's a lot of distrust and fear around being that exposed for us. And so you know, even with other women, sometimes women do not feel comfortable exposing that vulnerability to other women as well, because they've been persecuted, judged, ridiculed, all of those things. And right now, it's time for us to be vulnerable with our vulnerability. It's time for us to shift out of that fear and allow that, and to bring the sisterhood back, and learn how to communicate that vulnerability again in safe spaces. And it's a really interesting balance, because first of all, we have to create the container for the safe space. That means learn how to communicate so that we can access that safe space first. So communicating exactly how we would like to express our vulnerability first, holding a safe space and container, so then we can then express our vulnerability or show our vulnerability, or you know, that authenticity that is within us. And it takes time. And if you would love to be in that space and you just know that you're not there yet, or that you don't even have the opportunity, I'd love for you to get in contact with me, because there's a process of being able to shift into that, and communication is the big part of that, right? So we as women have the opportunity to make change in the world and in our own lives. Oh my gosh, to really sit and deeply connect into who you are as a woman, the sensuality of a woman, the rhythms of a woman, and to drop into that is amazingly awesome and extremely powerful. And when you're in that space, I've got to tell you, when you're in that space, the energy that you hold, that container that you hold for yourself, is felt by the community, is felt by those around you, is felt by animals, by it's felt when you walk within that space. Your energy emanates that empowerment, that love, that connection, that authenticity, that vulnerability, that sensuality, and your whole world changes because you create from that space. It only takes one person to hold space for creation. I just was at a conference for the last, I think it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was at a conference, and on Friday night, I think it was either Thursday night or Friday night. I think it was Friday night. There was 25 of us that decided we were all going to go and have dinner together, right? 25 people with no booking in Parramatta, right? And so we're walking along going, and I could hear people going, okay, how we're going to get into a restaurant with 25 people, right? And then also say, we don't want a buffet, we want to individually order. And so I was near the very start of that line, or, you know, everyone coming together, and I was telling the lady that was with me, it only takes one person to hold a creation. And if you can hold it well enough, and completely know what that desired end result is and visualize that end result, you can hold it for everything. And so I held the end result, saw 25 of us in a restaurant, and we went to this Thai restaurant, and I was the spokesperson and decided to be the one to talk, and I held that end result, and here we were, 25 people, all of us got in upstairs all together. We were all able to order our own meals. It was a beautiful experience. We all enjoyed it thoroughly. So no stress, no having to look indifferent. It was the first restaurant we went to. It was beautiful, and that's the power of a woman. That's the magic of being a woman. We can create, ladies. I'm telling you right now. You have that within you, and it's now's the time for us to stand up, hold that space for our men, for our children, for our community. We need to remember who we are, and when I say remember, rejoin with that powerful being that we are within inside of ourselves. So if that is anything's resonated, I hope you got some value out of this. If anything resonates and you would like to know more, or you just need that extra little help to support you with communicating that through relationships or whatever, get in contact, put yes in the comments below, and we will get the very start. What is it that you're choosing for this week that you would like to achieve, connect, love, support? You know, what sort of progress, what sort of action would you like? What's the opportunity to pause at any time? Take a moment and visualize that, how your week's going to be, what sort of productive energy you're going to hold, as well as when are you going to have that time to relax and pause. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week. See ya.